Let us pray. Holy God, we thank you once again for this day you have made for us. And as we gather for worship, we ask that your Holy Spirit may illumine our hearts and our minds, that we may be open to hearing your word today. And once we have heard it, that we may go forth with that word firmly planted within us, that we may go forth and serve your people. We ask for these and other blessings. In the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Our scripture reading will come from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 25, verses 14 through 30. Listen for what the Spirit is saying to the church. For it will be as when a man going on a journey called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here I have made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here I have made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He also who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not winnow. For I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sowed, and gather where I have not winnowed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to him who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has will more be given, and he will have abundance. But from him who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant out into the utter darkness. There men will weep and gnash their teeth. This is the word of the Lord from the Revised Standard Version of the Bible. Thanks be to God. Going back to the text that was just read for you in Matthew 25, it reads to us once again in verse 21. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. Let me ask you a question today. Are you a risk taker or are you a risk avoider? I'm sure that many of you can say you're either one or the other depending upon the circumstances. And we must be honest with ourselves. The idea of taking a risk can excite at one end and strike fear on the other end into our hearts at the same time. And let's face it also, some people, and some that we know, probably even like taking risks. They love that rush of excitement that comes with doing something different, knowing that it could work out well or it could work out to their detriment. The U.S. News report says that 150,000 people a year risk their lives riding the rapids of the Colorado River of whitewater rafting, knowing that some of those rapids are very rapid and very dangerous, but they take that chance anyway. Another example, since 1970, 45,000 people have taken up the hobby of hang gliding, just taking a chance running off the edge of a cliff with nothing but a big partition in front of them, and having the faith to know that as they jump off the end of that cliff, that they will continue to hang without going straight down. That is a risk. Think about the thousands who were bungee jumping, who were falling, free falling, leaping off towers and leaping on edges of mountains and hills from 80 feet up in the air. And as I see them go down with nothing but a rope that is hanging on the edge of their ankles, going all the way down and having the faith and knowing that they're going to come back up. That rush of taking a risk, taking that initiative. And there is many more times and many more examples of how people take risks. Whether it's skydiving, or whether it's auto racing, or whether it's leaping off of tall buildings, or snow skiing, or being in a cage with a lion. We're facing it even right now with people who are going through COVID, some who are taking risks of not wearing masks, and some who are taking the safety of a mask. There's excitement about taking a risk, taking the initiative. But when we have thought about the opportunity that we could lose it all, we ask ourselves again, are we a risk taker or are we a risk avoider? So how do we use what God has given us, and how do we use that faith, and how do we use that courage and initiative to do what God has called us to do? We find out here within this text that Jesus is still talking about the end times and teaching those on the Mount of Olives the parables about what it means about the kingdom of heaven. And Jesus at this point tells them about the parable of the king and his servants. And it goes a little like this, that this king had 3 particular servants that he had chosen, and he was about to leave for a little bit. Maybe we find out that the king was a business person. Excuse me. Maybe we find out that he wanted to go visit some others, maybe go to another kingdom and spend time. Whatever the case, the king is going away for a while. Does not tell the servants when he is going to be back exactly, but we do find that as the king was going to leave, he leaves talents or responsibility to the 3 who are left to take care of what he has. So as the text tells us, he goes and gives one 5 talents, another 2 talents, and another 1 talent. Now keep in mind, these talents that we are talking about are not a small sum of money, but we find out that a talent is worth 15 years of a day laborer's wages. So they are not entrusted with just a little bit, they are entrusted with quite a bit. And so we also find out that although the king does not let us know exactly when he or she is going to come back, but we find out that the king expected some type of return on the investment, if we want to use financial language. So the one who was given 5 talents went out, talked to people that he or she knew, maybe did some bartering with what they had, and did all types of things. And sure enough, the one who had 5 brought in 5 more. And you can imagine if you were given those odds that you would be pretty happy too, that this person worked and bartered and used those gifts that had been given to multiply just the same. So this one did well. The one who had 2, who was given that ability, also went out and said, well, if this one has gotten 5, maybe I can get at least 2. Excuse me. And sure enough, that person got 2. Happy with what they had received. So these two had done great things with what they had been given, the gifts that had been given. But we find out that the third one had a little bit of a different way of looking at things. For we find that the one who was given 1 talent, according to that person's ability, decided not to do anything with it, but to save it. Dug a hole in the ground and put that talent in it. And this person knew the master or the king, knew who this person was about. And instead of taking that risk or taking that gift that that person was given, they decided, instead of trying to use it for the betterment or trying to take the initiative to do something different, this person decided just to save it. Now, on the surface of things, is that bad? At least that wasn't lost, right? But let's see what happens when the master comes back. So we find that the master now returns and wants an accounting of what he had given to the servants. And so at first he goes to the one who gave the 5. What is it that you have done with what you have been given? And this person came back and said, well, master, you gave me 5 and I gave you 5 more. And you can imagine that this person was excited for what they had done. And sure enough, the master definitely was excited. Said, well, good. You have tripled, or not tripled, you have doubled what I had given you. Enter into the joy of your master. You have done well. The one who was given 2 had went and came up next. Now you can imagine that maybe this person was kind of smarting because they were not given 5, but maybe they were just glad just to have 2. You can't worry about what somebody else has been given. You have to do the best you can with what you have received. And so this person said, well, look here, master, you gave me 2, and so I went out and I got 2 more. I talked to some people, I made some deals, and look here, I doubled what I have been given. And sure enough, the master says, well, look here, I have given you 2, and you have brought in 2 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful what I have given you. Enter into the joy of your master. So 2 of them had done well, and they were excited that they had the opportunity to capitalize on the gifts that they had been given. Now the third one comes to the master, to the king. And you can imagine what was going through that person's mind. Maybe they thought, well, at least I did not lose anything. I know that my master is harsh, and I know what that person will do if I lose it, so at least I broke even. At least I won't be punished. I did well, for I saved it. And so you can imagine as he comes up to the master, and as he tells him, Master, I knew what kind of person that you are harsh. So instead of me multiplying what has been given unto me, I dug it and put it in a hole for your safekeeping. Here it is back. And you can imagine if you had done that, at least you didn't lose anything. And you can imagine that maybe the master would be happy about what had been done. But oh, that was not the case. For the master, the king had said, you lousy and lazy and wicked servant. You knew who I was, and you knew I want a return on what I had. And yet you had the nerve to take what I had given you and hide it in the ground without any benefit. And so this person was thrown into the place where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. And it has been told by the master that more will be given to those who use them. The 2 who took what God had given them made a return, doubled the gifts of what God had given, or what Christ had given them, or the master had given them. You see, what is happening in this text for today is that God has given each of us gifts according to our own abilities. And if we look around, some people in some areas are more talented than we could say in one others. But we know that no matter whether we have 5 or whether we have 2 or whether we have 1, God gives us our gifts to be used. And the other point of this parable is that what we use comes back in a superabundance of gifts that God has given us. You see, it is a terrible thing to waste. If God has given us our talents, and instead of trying to use them for the benefit of others who are around us, including those that we love, then it would be terrible. You see, God gives us talents to be used. Imagine what that means, church. If we're supposed to be going into a world that is hurting, but yet what we do is we turn our back on people instead of helping people where they are. Think about it, church, today. That if we are called to go forth into the world and tell us about Jesus Christ, why is it that the church is turning its back on others? Why is it that we, our church, with gifts and skills and talents, decide to keep it to ourselves? And when the world looks at the church, the world wonders, all these people inside this church, they're a church to themselves because they have not used and not shared what God has given them for the benefit of one another. Beloved, today God gives us gifts that are to be shared and to be used. God gives us talents, and my talent may not be like your talent, and your talent may not be like my talent, and you may have more than I do, but we all have something to give for the upbuilding of Jesus Christ here within the world for today. And we find that people have done great things with the gifts that they have been given. Churches all around, and even look at the history of the particular congregation in which you live in. There were probably a few people some years ago who came together who probably didn't have a whole lot of anything, but through the collective gifts that God has given them as a people, it has been used for the benefit of others. And that's why our churches are still standing. As we talk about a church going out into the world today, tackling all of what Matthew 25, the church initiative, is, as we talk about dismantling systemic racism and eradicating poverty and talk about church vitality, you see, it's not going to happen with us doing nothing. It's going to happen with us using the gifts and skills that God has given us. So, beloved, today, we are called to take that risk. We are called to take what we have, not to keep it to ourselves, but it's called to go out and to share that with one another. We're called to multiply the gifts and talents that God has given us, not for ourselves, but for the superabundant grace and mercy that is available to everybody who's on the outside of the four walls of our church and also inside of our church today. We are called today to be like Miss Osceola McCarthy. Some of you may have heard of this woman before. She was born in Mississippi, an African-American woman, in 1908. And from a small child, she was taught to save her money. And from the time of 8, whatever money that she had received, she saved it because it was what her mother taught her. And she spent her life as a washerwoman, going into the homes of those who had means, getting paid very little. The woman never got married, never had a huge education. But when she retired in 1995, she gave $150,000 of money she had saved to the University of Southern Mississippi for students who are deserving and needed financial assistance. To that time, one of the largest gifts somebody had ever given that school. An African-American woman who had nothing, washing clothes, didn't receive a whole lot of money for all of that, being faced with all different types of segregation and all types of discrimination. She took the gift that she had been given by her mother. It wasn't a big talent, but it was a small talent. But she used what she had for the upbuilding of God's kingdom to help somebody else. Beloved, today we are called to take the initiative, take the gifts and skills that God has given us, that it may be multiplied, not for our own benefit, that we may share that with somebody else within the world today. It don't take a whole lot. There's no commercial, a little dab will do you. Whatever God has given you today, use it to upbuild God's kingdom today. Don't hide it. Don't put it under a bushel basket, but use it today to glorify God in God's name forever. In the name of the Father, and in the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.